we're here to talk about the oldest public park in Los Angeles.
Sure.
Elysian Park, which sits above the Elysian Valley, where Spanish explorer Gaspar de Portola looked upon the area and thought, we can make a pueblo out of this.
We could play baseball here.
We could definitely play baseball here. It's going to upset a lot of people, though.
On both coasts.
Elysian Park was home to a Kitsch village near the LA Police Academy, and it was within this area, as we already brought up, that Chavez Ravine was settled and later destroyed for Dodger Stadium. Elysian Park is some 570 acres of lush natural landscapes and includes, as I mentioned, the Police Academy, Dodger Stadium, but also Cathedral High School, go Phantoms, the Barlow Respiratory Hospital, the Naval Reserve, where in 1943 U.S. sailors left on foot to stir up the Zoot Suit riots, the Grace Simmons Lodge, Leo Pelosi Park, who's the watercolorist who draw a lot of Bunker Hill stuff. There's a park dedicated to him. Angels Point, the Arroyo Seco Freeway tunnels, which are really beautiful. The Avenue of the Palms, where we got trapped in a lowrider show.
Lowrider parade, Greg. That's what we call them. That's what we with Honda Civic hybrids call them.
It's really low. It really is low, though.
Right. It's not one word. It's two words. I'm a low rider, so I belong.
I'm the rider. My car is low, but
and by rider, I mean WRITER because I'm so low on what the term rider means.
The park also has the Victory Memorial Garden, the Chavez Ravine Arboretum. Is it Arboretum, right?
Arboretum?
Is it Arboretum?
Yeah, the Arboretum.
Arboretum.
Now that you're saying it, I keep wanting to say an arboretorium, but that's not anything.
That's a word you just made up. I'm going to say Arboretum. Arboretum, the Buena Vista Reservoir, and many miles of wonderful hiking trails and some of the best views of the city. This is Elysian Park. Many speculate that the Kitsch village Yangna, which, a lot of people think that's near City Hall on the 101 freeway, but there's some who believe it was actually in the bounds of Elysian Park.
Why would they want to? They wouldn't want to be so far from the river, though. I mean, it's not that far, but you want to be like on the river.
But remember that the river I don't know if
flood.
The river would flood, but also I don't know if the river it would go along there. I remember they had the Zanja Madre, which went directly through the Pueblo, but I don't know if the river, like the LA River, actually goes closer to the bluffs of Boyle Heights. Elysian Park grows history by the bushel. That was the end of that sentence that you interrupted. As well as being the oldest park in Los Angeles, Pershing Square, I'm also talking about Pershing Square, buried lead, but whatever, was established earlier, but it's a man-made park, so it's not at the same thing.
No, Pershing Square, all that concrete happened naturally. that was there before the natives even got here.
You know how the tar pits makes tar? Well, Pershing Square from the ground makes cement.
Fully formed concrete.
Square angles.
And all those needles come up too, naturally.
So if we're talking about Park, Elysian Park is the oldest public park in my brain. Park.
Nature park.
Yeah. It's also the second largest park, following Griffith Park, of course.
Someone should keep tabs on how often we say the word park today.
I think we're already in the 80s. If you're wondering where Elysian Park is, I already said it's, Dodger Stadium. If you think of Dodger Stadium, that's Elysian Park. But if you want to know, the borders of it are the 5 freeway beside Elysian Valley, affectionately referred to as Frogtown on the north, Lincoln Heights on the east, Chinatown on the south, and Echo Park and Elysian Heights on the west.
It's very borders. Big. But people live in a lot of it.
There are a lot of people who live on the rim of it, and then there's, of course, Chavez Ravine right in the middle, and then there's still the remnants of whatever wasn't destroyed for Dodger Stadium, like Solano Canyon and everything around the Naval Reserve. So there are people who do live within the bounds of the park.
Young police officers, young Navy officers, and a bunch of people who can't sleep at night.
What a good mix.
With all of the gun training that's going on. All these people who can't sleep at night, you're going to sleep in between these two gun ranges.
So let's go back to a little bit of history. Both my parks go way, way, way back to old Spanish Los Angeles. In 1769, when the Spanish expedition to conquer California started, Portola and his group of explorers crossed the mighty Los Angeles water stream, and they camped on the bluffs of Elysian Park. And they have a monument there. It's just off of North Broadway, that long bridge that leads you into Lincoln Heights, where that meets the park. There's a monument. That's where they slept that night, or whatever that day. And today,
the toothbrush is still there.
This was the first recorded mention of the area, made on August 2nd, 1769. It's said of the group of Native Americans living near Solano Canyon greeted them with the refreshments. Probably should have saved the tang for a more worthy guest, but they didn't know that. We know that now. Anyways, the bluffs were just a stop for the Spanish expedition. They were on their way to Monterey. Following them on this road trip was Spanish missionaries opening up labor camps known as missions, as we all know already, with the help of their old pals, enslaved Native Americans held against their will. In 1771, just 2 years after Portola took a nap at the edge of Elysian Park, Junipero Cerro established the San Gabriel Mission 11 miles east. And this said, just to once again illustrate how fast the wrecking ball swept through the lives of the Native Americans in the area.
Right. Yeah. Once you pop, you can't stop.
You can't stop. So
once you padre, you can't stop.
That you got it. Just 10 years later, when King Carlos III of Spain signed off on the founding of the Pueblo de Los Angeles, the area that became Elysian Park was the what?
You almost
So close.
You got so Latin for a second.
I know, and I'm like, pull back. You can't roll that.
You started regrowing hair, and it was going into a perfect Ricky Ricardo coif.
The area that became Elysian Park was the last remaining space from the original land grant. So of the original land grant, when Spain signed off on this becoming a town, this is the last remaining space of that's not been developed. That it's like almost intact.
So when you step on a piece of grass in Elysian Park, this is like, wow.
It's like, wow. Yeah. Even though that's not the lifespan of grass. Yeah.
This grass has been here since 1769.
Even though it's been clearly cut and clearly replanted. So that's 1781, Spanish days, not 1821 when Mexico won independence and took over California. And that's not 1848 when California becomes part of the United States. Elysian Park is just a slice of a time capsule in the natural landscape of old Los Angeles. At the time that Spain took over the area and made Los Angeles a pueblo, they were either giving away or auctioning off all the land.
Right.
That's what they were just doing.
That's a lot of grass to give away.
The area that became Elysian Park was comprised of steep hills and rugged terrain. So there was a lack of development in certain key areas of the park in the early days.
We say like, I can't believe it never got developed. Like, how? Like
yeah.
it's mostly a mountain.
I mean, like the parts that are flat did get developed on, but there's a lot of it is like how. But that's what a point I wanted to make was like Elysian Heights and Echo Park is just over the hill, and Baxter and Fargo. They looked at Fargo and were like, let's put a house on that thing. So it's kind of weird that they look like just around the corner. Like there's no way. We can't even auction. We can't give this away. There's no way you could develop on it. And around the corner, like, oh, just do it there, though. Was that the steepest hill in Los Angeles? Yeah, go ahead, put something up there.
So you're saying I could have had more Baxters to deal with if we had just developed on Elysian Park?
It would have been. You can't see my hand movement. It's basically going up and down.
Goliath.
In 1849, once the lousy bum Americans had taken over the city, they continued auctioning off parcels of land to pump up the city's revenue. But Elysian Park, which was known then either as Rock Quarry Hills or Quarry Hill Park, one of those two.
Now you're turning into East Coast.
Like I said, it was either Rock Quarry Hills or Quarry Hill Park. It was one of those two.
Quarry Hill Park.
My favorite quarry was Quarry Hill Park. A lot of that area was pooled from public auction block and instead reserved for public purposes. We're necking and canoodling and what did we call last time?
Shadow whoopee?
Shadow whoopee.
I have shadow whoopee coming up in my episode.
We can't let it go, can we?
No, I can't. Well, how are you going to let go of shadow whoopee?
It seems like this culture can't let go of shadow whoopee. Now, like I said earlier, the hills and canyons made the area undesirable to sell off because you couldn't build homes or businesses there. Yeah. I think that this almost is a perfect mix because it was gorgeous and the terrain was too challenging for development. And maybe that's the key for purity and longevity in the city is like, it's gorgeous, but like try to build a house on that hill.
If you want to save an old building in Los Angeles, just put it on top of the steepest.
Build it teetering off the edge of Angel's Flight.
No one's going to touch it.
That's where we could have the next record shop that never gets destroyed.
You have to like hire a Sherpa to get there.
So it was being preserved, right? They didn't want to auction it off. They couldn't sell it. They couldn't give it away. Just around the corner from being an undesirable parcel of land was the natural preservation movement. The late 19th century was the era when John Muir and Teddy Roosevelt and Charles Lummis and others that like them sought to preserve beautiful natural landscapes of America that were fading at the dawn of the 20th century. Yellowstone was made a national park in 1872. That was the first of its kind. So this is around that era. So following that enthusiasm, Mayor Edward Spence and the City Council of LA dedicated the area of Elysian Park as a city park. And at that point, the Rock Quarry Hills were renamed Elysian Park, named after the Elysian fields from Greek mythology, where good souls obviously went to a sweet afterlife.
That's their I was trying to think of
that's their Dave and Buster's. Yeah. Is that what you're looking for?
As the Greek had the Elysian fields, so do the Americans all pass on to Dave and Buster's one day. You're either good enough in life to pass on to Dave and Buster's or you end up at Fuddruckers. And God have mercy on your Fuddrucking soul.
You'll be pushing a boulder in Fuddruckers for all of eternity.
With like a vulture eating a chicken burger out of the side of your stomach. That good luck getting any sauce on that.
That was hell for Prometheus, but it was heaven for the vulture. A meal every morning?
That's a beautiful way to recontextualize. This is the reboot of the Prometheus story. What about the crow? The Book of Crow. The crow wasn't such a bad guy. He was just trying to make a living. He was sick of his marauding life.
Make a living. So the city charters after this point would grant Elysian Park protection for the parkland in perpetuity. And while that seems pretty cut and dry as far as preservation, groups still have to fight to keep the park as beautiful as it is. But we'll get to that a little bit later.
Just let it. It's a park. It grows.
Don't even don't landscape it. Just let it grow wild.
Just a post-apocalyptic public park. That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to say.
It took you a couple tries. We've been here for an hour. You've been trying to say it. You cut it all out.
Most of it out. That's the beauty of Zoom.
Along with dedicating and establishing the area officially during the 1880s, there were about 30,000 eucalyptus trees planted within the park.
Oh my God.
The committee on I know there's a lot. The Committee on Parks as well purchased the first plantings of gum trees for $200. The mayor from 1889 to 1892, Henry Hazard, pushed hard for the beautification of the park along with the LA Times editorial staff. By 1893, over 150 trees had been planted, including eucalyptus, live oaks, pines, cypresses, deodar, ciders, and more. During the 1890s...
Deodar are the ones on the E.T. street. Those are the trees from E.T. Yeah,
that's good to know. If you need a picture it, watch E.T. Don't Google it, just watch E.T.
Which is the Elysian Fields of movies, is E.T.
When you die, you're going to go to a movie theater and they'll be playing E.T.
And when you die, they're going to be playing Mac and Me.
When I die and go to hell, they're going to be playing E.T.
How dare you proceed?
During the 1890s, the Los Angeles Horticultural Society began planting different species of rare trees, which became a double row of wild date palms north of Stadium Way. They were responsible for the Chavez Ravine Arboretum, the first botanical garden. Arboretum, excuse me. The first, you're going to change it every time I say it.
It's an arboretum.
We already established that. They were responsible for the Chavez Ravine
Arbitration. Yes.
That was the first botanical garden in Southern California. It was right here in Elysian Park. Wow. They planted the trees along the Avenue of the Palms. Along with greenery, the park got trails, roads, and bathrooms installed.
The Pioneer Chicken and Bell Gardens could learn a thing or two from them.
This is where all the bathrooms went. Historically, this was the bathroom that was supposed to have gone to Pioneer Chicken. But
that's why there's a guy with a wagon and being driven by a chicken or whatever on the...
That's why Pioneer Pete is looking for a bathroom. He's
Pioneer Pete?
Pioneer Pete. He's like the La Llorona. He's looking for a bathroom.
Yeah.
He's like,
he's weeping. They took my bathroom away from me.
They took my bathroom. He wanders the dark parks at night. Where are my bathrooms? And then El Santo fights him. What trouble Elysian Park ran into in 1899 was directly tied to push to preserve more greenery in urban areas. At this point, 1899, it had to contend with the other city parks like Pershing Square, Hollenbeck Park, and MacArthur Park, then known as Westlake, but also the new park in town, Griffith Park, which had completely dwarfed Elysian Park. Elysian Park was 550 to 600 acres, depending on when you ask. But Griffith Park is like more than 4,000 acres in total. It's like a vast natural landscape. It's ridiculous how
cut it
big.
In half.
Griffith Park was formally established in 1896, and Griffith Park, a lot like Daniel using CBD oil, is a lot higher. The views are better.
Hang on. I nearly choked on my CBD when you said that. Greg, you know that there's no THC in there. You know this, Greg. Maybe you need to take a walk through the arboretum, as you call it, and learn a little bit about botany.
How many CBD oil jokes do I have? I think I have a lot. If I do like a search for CBD, like it's just gonna like which one of the 90 entries do you want to find?
Now you do sound like me doing a search for CBD. That's the next Star Trek sequel, the search for CBD.
Griffith Park's altitude is much higher. It's got
I bet you
the observatory. It's got the Hollywood sign on the back end of it. The views are great. The vastness, the trails, the Walt Disney anecdotes. It was hard to compete with a more natural wonder in the middle of the city than Griffith Park. So it was getting a lot of attention, and all the parks altogether were eating up all of the city budget. So Elysian Park was suddenly getting a lot less love. It should also be said before continuing into the 20th century that as quote unquote undesirable and somewhat treacherous the city officials found Elysian Park to be, the community of Chavez Ravine was beginning to establish itself in the hills and the canyons at the beginning of the 20th century. And in 1855, the first Jewish site in Los Angeles, a Jewish cemetery opened up by the Hebrew Benevolent Society of Los Angeles, was it set up in Elysian Park too.
Yeah.
So like,
where are the graves now?
I don't know. I didn't look into that. Oh no!
We
but
didn't
if you're
dig up the bodies.
You built the Naval Reserve on top of it.
Jewish poltergeist.
If you're looking for it, it's at 800 West Lilac.
Go on.
Stop it right now.
Which is also that's part of the Jewish gay rights chant. We're here. We schmeared. Get used to it.
Oh my God. I don't, how do I stop the recording?
Yeah.
I can, it's up to me now. I can stop the recording.
When we're in a room together, I will never let you just walk out, but you're totally free to just close your laptop at any moment.
You didn't handcuff my hand to the chair this time, did ya?
It's padded, isn't it? It's a handcuff. You like it. Tell them you like it. Tell
also-
everybody that you like it.
I like the restrictions Daniel puts on me.
No,
so I can't
tell them
leave
you
the
like
room.
the handcuffs, you kinky little pervert.
I specifically like the padded handcuffs that Daniel puts on me.
Now tell them about the feathers.
The boa. You love the boa, right? If you're looking for the site of the Jewish cemetery, it's at 800 West Lilac Terrace near Lookout Drive behind the Naval Reserve for the curious. So the hills were home to some and a final resting place for others. So like as much as the city's saying there's nothing we could do with this land, like people were finding things to do with it. Park beautification continued at the end of the 19th centuries as it did the modern improvements. I put modern in quotations, improvements to the access roads and more footpaths. And other things began to develop in Elysian Park. In 1902, Dr. Jarvis Barlow opened up the Barlow Sanitarium, later Barlow Respiratory Hospital in one of the valleys in the park.
It's a respiratory hospital, not a sleep clinic. But people who have respiratory problems can't sleep well at night.
I think that those cabins across the street from it are officially the sleep center thing, which they look haunted. They look like you made a wrong turn in Camp Crystal Lake. And you're like, oh no.
I mean, we were saying before, like, put them between two military training facilities, but like, no one wants to sleep in a haunted bungalow either. This isn't going to go well.
Also, it was there first, so there was a respiratory hospital, and then 2 military operations were like, we got to be near this thing. Yeah, that opened up.
Quiet down.
Talk about Barlow a little bit. When he was younger, I think we covered this in maybe the Chavez Ravine episode, but we'll talk about it a little bit more. When Barlow was younger, he was living in New York, and he came down with a mild case of tuberculosis, and it was treated by warm, dry air of the West. So when it came time for him to help others and open a facility to treat them, he and his wife traveled to Southern California on a horse-drawn carriage.
Like Pioneer Pete.
Oh, they're related.
On their westward expansion search for public bathrooms.
I told you to go in Omaha. I said go in Omaha. Now look at I
I'm
can
not
see the
turning
ocean.
around.
That blue line, that's the Pacific. You got to pee in the ocean now. It's not pee. The spot they found was in Chavez Ravine, which at the time, he traveled through the beautiful meadows tucked in rolling hills, and it was like, oh, this is it. Like, this is where I'm going to make people's lives better. Shadow whoopee. There are 32 buildings that make up the hospital, and they were done between 1902 to 1952, and many are done in either craftsman or Spanish Revival style. So it's really worth the stuff. They're really beautiful.
They are, but they're especially because like I only seem to be there at night bringing you home, so it's always scary.
Oh, absolutely. And there's
and
a stretch.
It's not even talking about the buildings. Just bringing you home at night is scary.
I want to stop so much. I want to stop so often.
I don't know when you're just gonna just lose it, just snap, and so that flip switches, and you just. I mean, we say that I put the handcuffs on you to keep you in here, but really it's to keep me safe. I have to tie you up like Hannibal Lecter when we do an episode because you just flip out.
Part of my charm is you never know when it's going to happen. People like to live on the edge. Talking about Barlow a little bit more, though, during the height of the AIDS crisis of the 80s, Barlow Respiratory Hospital had a wing dedicated to helping people who were suffering from it. So it was like a place that was continually trying to help people. So it's a good spot in LA history, right there in Elysian Park. In 1931, the nicest part of the Arroyo Seco Freeway, the 110, was constructed, and that's the 4 Figueroa Street tunnels.
Right.
Which
I
were
guess
added.
that is Elysian Park, isn't it?
It is Elysian Park, yeah, that's the far edge of it. Solano Canyon's on the other end of that freeway. So they obviously knocked down a lot of Solano Canyon to build this stretch of road, which they later connected to the 110 in, I think, in like 1940.
Yeah, we know all this.
Whatever.
We don't have to rehash how complicated it was to try to figure out what freeway connected when and where.
The tunnels are on my list of the top 10 most beautiful things in the city. They're so gorgeous.
They're
Driving through them
nice.
is so nice.
Yeah.
I one day had an epiphany of like, oh, you know why I don't appreciate this enough is because I want to walk through them.
Yeah.
You're always like driving
and you can't even look at them, like because
No.
that stretch of the freeway is also pretty scary. So like, you can't. If you were to stop and appreciate life, that would be the end of it.
Yeah. Unless you're a tagger or the homeless guy who lives above the arch of one of the tunnels, which I'm like, dude, you're gonna fall. Like, you're going to fall. I know there's a gate there, but you're gonna slip through it.
Is he like lying on it like Snoopy?
No. It's there's like a dirt patch behind it on the hill, and he's sleeping up there. You're gonna fall, and I'm gonna.
But you're safe from other people, but you're not safe from gravity.
No one else is brave enough to go up there. I hope I'm not riding that guy, but then I don't think any cops listen to this.
I make sure of that.
The tunnels were designed by Merrill Butler, who also gave us a lot of the LA River bridges and also the Glendale Hyperion Bridge. The tunnels are very Art Deco and feature elegant deco patterns, elemental street lamps, reflective tiling on the inside of the tunnels, and a stylized seal of Los Angeles outside of each of the openings. They're really beautiful, and I wish we could walk through them. I wish they had like a block party where they just stop the freeway and we could walk through them.
Close off one of the busiest freeways in the city for a day.
Absolutely. One of the most essential freeways. In 1925, the LA Park Commission issued a temporary permit to the Los Angeles Police Revolver and Athletic Club to use a parcel parcel of land in the park as a revolver range, and by 1935, the City Board of Parks granted the club a 25-year subsequently renewed permit to operate in the area of the park. I mean, eventually this spot was taken over by the LAPD, and it became the LAPD Police Academy right there. You know, I guess that's the western part of Chavez Ravine. One of the mainstays of that gun range that became a police academy was our old villain, former police chief Jim Two Gun Davis,
right.
One of the worst people.
When you said revolver, I was like, I think I know a guy who likes revolvers.
So he pretty much set up that gun range. He was like the star of it. We already know he shot like a cigarette. He has a video of him shooting a cigarette. They had like turkey shoots where he brought women and they would just shoot turkeys.
Oh, great.
Anyways, he's one of the worst men in LA history. But during the summer 1932 Olympics here in Los Angeles, the men's 25-meter rapid fire pistol competition was held at that gun range in Elysian Park.
25-meter rapid pistol competition?
In rapid fire.
Whoa, that's like I don't think they do that anymore. That's like an Old West Olympics sort of thing. The Olympic high noon draw. Spain versus Italy.
Italy won. I'm like, oh, that makes sense because they like Westerns a lot.
Yeah, but they just shoot spaghetti though.
So here's another thing about the police academy. Two Gun Davis. Summer Olympics. The LA Police Academy in Elysian Park was also home to an iconic rock garden, which is so funny to me. I don't know why. The police need to be reformed. We need some transparency. Check out that rock garden. It's serene. Turn on that body cam. Like it fits in so weird in the history of the police to me. In 1937, they got landscape artist Francois Scotti, and he was hired to design the rock garden. And in 1973, it became a LA historic cultural monument. I read on the LA Police Revolver and Athletic Club's website that it was
on that website.
When I open, it's my default homepage.
What's going on today? Apparently,
according to the website, a labor force of LA PD officers and trustees built the rock garden themselves and the stone walls. So like this guy designed it, and they were like, we got to get up there because we're butch and we got to build this rock garden. And it's so lovely.
You keep describing a rock. What is a rock garden? Like what they have in Japan, and there's like these bloodthirsty cops from the 20s are raking sand into intricate designs.
No, it's like I don't know how to describe it. It's sort of like a can I send you a picture on your phone so you get it?
Yeah,
I text you. It's a rock garden.
There's too much technology involved right now.
It looks very tropical. I can say it looks very tropical, even for the 30s. Okay. It's a very tropical looking. I mean, if you want to see it, there's a lot of Tarzan movies, and they filmed the intro to Charlie's Angels there.
Send me a picture of it after we record, and then I'll add my reaction in right here. Oh, wow.
Whoa. So it has like 4
Rock
pools.
And roll.
So this area has 4 pools, stone seats, a waterfall, a barbecue pit, and an amphitheater. And it's very lovely.
It's all made out of rock?
There's a lot of rock and stone in it. Yeah. I don't know how to describe nice things
now I'm just thinking of the Flintstones. Like you're describing a resort from the Flintstones.
Imagine Flintstones went to like prehistoric Hawaii
Las
in
Vegas?
An episode. If they went to a tiki themed casino that has like a rock name, like a rock pun name. Imagine that design. That would be the rock garden at the police academy.
No, I can't think of any sort of rock. They went to the Tonga room. No.
You're so good at this. In November,
I'll come up with a good one.
I'll forget. Don't worry. In November of 1937, on the Frogtown side of Elysian Park, a devastating landslide set 1.5 million tons of rock and earth down on the Riverside Drive and the
irony. You play with rock, you get the rock.
And it all started from a crack that was like an inch deep. And after the
initial
initial
slide, we're going to be talking
slide,
about an inch deep crack a little bit later, and that is not a euphemism, I swear. But we will be talking about another crack later.
Shadow whoopee. So after the initial slide, like the earth, all the landslide continued to creep for days, and it was drawing in crowds to watch it.
To watch the landslide?
It was said 50,000 people were like, I gotta check out this thing. Like I was reading that like 2 kids hopped the train from New York to California to see the landslide in Elysian
We got to
Park.
get there before the big finale. Also consider we're talking about the period of time where people were like, I got to get down to Paramount because they have ostriches and I need to see that.
Right. In 1937. And they kept calling it like the moving mountain. Like it's just a landslide that won't stop.
The jitterbugging mountain. Come one, come all. Come see it.
Nobody died, but it was pretty destructive nonetheless. But if you walk the outer path, have I ever taken you on a walk through Elysian Park?
As we know, I've gone through a parade, but we've never really walked around Elysian Park together.
We should. It's very nice. But there's a part where you can clearly see where the landslide was. Like it's just like a crescent shaped dip, and everything's suddenly like, oh, that's straight down. That's a vertical drop. In 1941, the Naval
tungsten room. I don't know if that's a rock. It might be a gas.
I don't know.
Oh. I'm sorry.
Did we take geology together or did we take astronomy? Did we take either of those science classes together?
We might have taken anatomy together, and now I am making a euphemism. But
Okay, never mind. In 1941, the Naval and Marine Corps Reserve Training Center was opened as part of the New Deal as a WPA project. I've never seen the inside of this place, but apparently it had a rifle range, a pool, and a drilling area that looked like the deck of a ship with World War II anti-aircraft guns and cannons inside. It sounds pretty great. When I think of this place,
was it made of rocks?
Yeah, everything here has to be made. It's very Flintstones related.
It's very Simpsons of the 60s.
When I think of the Naval Reserve, I think of three things. When I was a kid, my mom took me there because they were having some sort of like fair or convention thing. The police were having it in the lot. And when I was there, I saw one of the cop cars from the North Hollywood bank robbery, shortly after the robbery. And it looked like
Sonny's car.
It looked like Sonny.
Not even his car.
Not even. It looked like they massacred my boy. Like it looked like that. It was insane. The second thing I think of is during the 40s, as I said before, the sailors left this reserve to go fight a bunch of Pachucos during the Zuzu riots, which is a no-no. And the third thing,
fight is a strong word. They went to abuse and
basically beat down. The third thing is there's a pylon on display when you drive by from the World Trade Center from 9/11 that they have on display. And I never really got that, but I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the fire department now trains there. So I might have done to honor them.
Because there's a fire department in Sherman Oaks that has like a twisted piece of metal, and they're like, "This is from the world." God. But isn't the one that's in Elysian Park like that? Isn't it one of the like the facade ornament, like one of the things that was on like the main entrance?
I don't know. I didn't look too much into that piece of metal. That a different story that's not covered by Only Meekly.
Can we just get into 9/11 just for a quick second?
I have a lot of questions about how hot jet fuel can burn. I just want to get into it. But now it's named the Frank Hodgkin Memorial Training Facility after a firefighter who died in 1980. So that's the new name of it now. Continuing on in the story of the developments within the park. The 40s in Elysian Park, those are also when Frank Wilkinson attempts to help the citizens of Chavez Ravine, and because of his communist leanings and because the city hates poor people, it was the inciting incident that led to the Battle of Chavez Ravine and the creation of Dodger Stadium. Oh, also in the 50s we got Dodger Stadium. Don't ask us how. If you want to hear more about that, we did an episode up Root for the Home Team is our Chavez Ravine episode, and also you can listen to Eric Nussbaum's, I listened to his book. You could read it if you want. Stealing Home, which is fantastic. As socially devastating as the Battle of Chavez Ravine was, the new Dodger Stadium put all eyes on the lush little park in Los Angeles. And you and I have talked about this in regards to other city ballparks, but ours is different mainly because it feels like it's in an inaccessible park, although it's not inaccessible at all. But like you're saying, and I kind of know just from legend, that a lot of other city parks are just in the middle of downtown. Like it's a bar, a barbershop, a baseball stadium, a hair salon, a restaurant. It's like in
Boston, it's like, and even kind of in New York also, it's like people are like opening their window because a home run ball just flew in through there. you crazy kids, you owe me for this.
Jackie Robinson, I told you if you send one more over the edge.
This is the fourth time this week. Are you going for some sort of record?
I'm glad you're playing ball professionally, but I swear to God, one more ball. Hit a grounder. When I was in San Diego, I took the train there years ago.
Yeah,
and I was
that's
walking
crazy.
Around, and I was just like, I was following just like loud noise, and I turned. I'm like, oh, this is a baseball stadium. Right here. The Padres play in
weird
Petco Park right here.
The San Diego one's even weirder because it's basically like, it's almost as if there was a baseball stadium in like the Americana. It's like right in the middle of downtown. It's so weird.
You literally will turn the corner and you're like, huh? Oh, okay, sure. Ours sits a little cush in the seat of this oldest nature park in the city. A lot of people find the park is hard to get to, but I like that it's in the park. Like I hate how I got there, obviously, but like I like that it's a little bit different.
You like the way I got there. Say it live.
I like that there's a school buried intact under the parking lot.
Yeah, that's right. I'm
sorry. Before I knew really what Chavez Ravine was, I certainly loved living around the corner from a park that had the Dodger Stadium in it.
Yeah, you love the traffic also when there's any game. When there's even a sale at the shop, the amount of traffic.
For an area that the city fathers deemed unauctionable, unsellable, too steep and canyony, by the middle of the 20th century, there was plenty of encroaching of the modern concrete world into the park. Dodger Stadium, Police Academy, Barlow Hospital, Naval Reserve were all high traffic facilities. So suddenly this serene park had traffic and smog and trash, and roads and parking lots had to be built. So that meant more nature was being steamrolled over to make way for asphalt. There were still homes like we were talking about in the periphery of the parkland, and the Solano Solano Canyon as well. And there were threats, I think like in the 60s, that they were going to put a municipal convention center on 62 acres of parkland. And after that news came, a group of local activists was formed in 1965 by Grace E. I always call it, it's spelled Simons. I've always heard it Simmons. So I'm going to say Simmons. It might be Simons. And her husband, Frank Glass, called the Citizens Committee to save Elysian Park. Simmons sounds so cool. I want to do a whole episode on Grace Simmons. She was a local resident and park user, but also more importantly, she was a former editor and reporter for the California Eagle, which was Charlotte Bass's publication, which was an African-American newspaper. Grace Simmons was not African-American. And it says on the website, she won the respect and friendship of Malcolm X, who thought she was the best journalist he knew.
Weird.
Yeah.
I wouldn't kill you in the field of battle.
She was stalwart in her convictions to save the park, and aside from successfully keeping the first convention center out, she also fought off oil fields, an airport, and condos. This is the kind of person we need like now, the kind of like fire. And I guess we have a lot of those people, but she seemed successful. Maybe it was the 60s and people were scared of her. It could have been also that. This
An empowered woman.
Oh no, a power suit and a blazer. Oh no.
What's she doing with her bra?
Oh god. This is a woman who stayed vigilant, wrote letters, organized groups, and actually managed to save nature in the middle of Los Angeles. She fought hard for 20 years until her death in 1985, and the organization remains active to this day, still fighting off developments in the park. Some of the developments
still trying?
Yeah, they're trying to build condos, zip lines, and 2 football stadiums. Zip lines.
2 football stadiums. Well, I'm sure they got over that, but
where?
Yeah, where are they gonna it's like a slanted football stadium? But a zip line, I'm not opposed to a zip line. I wouldn't mind zipping across Elysian Park.
Yeah, a zip line ain't too bad.
Yeah. All the way from the respiratory clinic to the police academy.
A 2-mile zip line. So they built in her memory, they built the Grace Simmons Lodge in Elysian Park, which is really beautiful. It's a place that I walked past all my life.
Yeah, she's opposed to development unless it has her name on it.
People get married there. Shut up. And also there were 2 structures up on Angels Point dedicated to her and her husband, done by my kind of pal and kind of neighbor, Peter Shire.
Okay.
Who's an artist.
Was he the guy you do Lowrider magazine painting next to?
Yeah, I did it next to Peter Shire. The last of the greatest hits, I called what we just went through talking about developments the greatest hits. They're the greatest hits. The last of the greatest hits on the reel of Elysian Park happens on Easter Sunday, 1967. Elysian Park was the scene of the first...
Jesus came back in Elysian Park.
Cross and all, and he needed medical attention, and people were just still like, oh my God, Jesus. And he's like, look at my hand.
Me.
Look at my feet.
Yeah, but before
One
that,
nail, 2 feet.
Before that, can you just sign a few of these crucifixes I have?
Elysian Park was the scene of the first Love-In, where some 4,000 unwashed, privileged hippies came to listen to music, dance, drink CBD oil or whatever you do with it.
Did they have lowriders?
We don't believe in cars, man. We ride clouds everywhere we go. 2017 was the 50th anniversary, so they planned another Love-In, but I don't know how it turned out. Hipsters and hippies, no matter how much.
There's a bunch of 5-year-olds right now, though.
If you want to see footage of the 67 Love-In in a short film by Les Blank and Skip Gerson, it's out there. It's called God Respects Us When We Work, but He Loves Us When We Dance, which was released in 1968.
I can't think of
a
hippier title for the hippiest thing I could imagine happening.
I get you like Allen Ginsberg and long prose, but how about keep a title like 2 or 3 words? I don't know. I could wrap this up by saying I am incredibly sentimental about Elysian Park. I grew up in Elysian Heights, and this vast
is your park.
It is, yeah. And this really big park just outside the city limits was my backyard. It made me feel like a wilderness kid, even though I live 5 minutes from downtown. There's hidden passageways, hidden stairs, beautiful views. On 4th of July, we would drive up to Park Avenue and watch fireworks from Dodger Stadium. I gained a sense of independence by learning to walk the paths alone as a kid, which I should have been kidnapped and killed, but I never was.
Those vagabonds who raised me in that park taught me so much about myself.
I never got into it, but I've said on this podcast before that affectionately called the hobo trails was the trails that go alongside the north side of the park. I guess because there are a lot of hobos who would sleep in those hills and wait for the trains on the train yard to come. My best memories of my grandpa are when he'd take me hiking when we waited for my parents to come home, and my family would take me on Sunday morning strolls to the park. It's historic and old and beautiful, and I genuinely love Elysian Park.